Good evening, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Patricia Roxanne Hammond, coming to you live from our studios at Kwabinya Point 1. This is NEWSBOARD. Let's take a look at the headlines in Ghana and around the world. Security expert wants an established commission of inquiry to probe criminal gangs within police service. Former President John Mahama says judgment affirming Deputy Speaker's right to vote shocking but not surprising. Bank of Ghana warns public about an impending launch of a cryptocurrency named Freedom Coin. And 3 people, including a child, were killed in a Russian strike on a maternity and children's hospital in Ukraine. You can also watch us on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube at NewTVGH. And now to the details. The Accra Circuit Court 11 has denied a bail application to the police officers and a civilian who were arrested in connection with the recent robbery attacks on bullion vans in Accra. This comes after the state's prosecutor, Sylvester Sari, opposed a bail application by the counsel for one of the accused persons, Albert Ofosu. According to the state's prosecutor, it would be dangerous to allow such a criminal suspect back into society.
Albert Ofosu, together with 3 other police officers and a civilian, were arrested over the alleged involvement in the recent robbery attacks on bullion vans in Accra. It emerged during proceedings on Wednesday that Albert Ofosu and Afisu Yaro Ibrahim were charged with an attempt to commit crime and robbery at North Kaneshi, while Richard Bwedu, Razak Alassan, and Rabiu Jambedu were charged with abetment of crime and robbery. According to the court, the suspects must remain in police custody for further investigations. The case has thus been adjourned to 28 March 2022. The 5 were picked up at their hideout after a police intelligence raid at Boteman near Ashaman on Tuesday. Their arrest is part of the police special operation in recent bullion van robberies. Meanwhile, 2 police officers who were earlier arrested in connection with the investigations are said to have died in a shootout when they led the police to another hideout of criminals involved in the crime.
The president of the Institute of Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies, Dr. Ishmael Norman, has called for an independent commission of inquiry into the killing of 2 key suspects in the ongoing police investigation into the bullion van robberies.
The 2 suspects, Constable Randolph Jima Ansa and Corporal Stephen Kwekunyame, were shot dead during a gunfight between police officers and the criminal gang involved in the bullion van heist at Boteman in Ashaman. President of the Institute of Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies, Mr. Ishmael Norman, said it was rather suspicious that following a shootout, as the police had recounted, it was only the 2 key suspects that had sustained gunshot wounds and died.
A lot of mistakes were done. The whole approach, taking a key witness to basically the hideout of other criminals or the gang, was a poor judgment on the part of the police. Without protective gear, flat jacket, bulletproof jacket, helmet, anything like that. In today's communication world, you don't have to carry a witness to a spot where the crime took place to get evidence. He could have been on the radio, he could have been on the phone and direct the team that was going to the place. And the other thing is, why is it that the only 2 essential people were the only ones who got shot? It just doesn't make sense. No matter how hard we try to be charitable to the police, it just doesn't make sense. So it was incredulous, to say the least, that the 2 essential people got killed, nobody else got killed. Where do we go from here? The questions that flow from there is, what did they know and who did they know information about that was damning to those people? If they were killed, if they were murdered, who gave the order? We need to have a commission of inquiry, not only about the killing of the 2 suspects, but we also need to have a commission of inquiry to dig into criminal cells within the police force.
Former President John Mahama has criticized the Supreme Court's unanimous decision that deputy speakers of parliament can vote even when they are presiding as speaker. In a tweet, he described it as shocking but not surprising. Mr. Mahama said it was an unfortunate interpretation for convenience that sets a dangerous precedent of judicial interference in parliamentary proceedings for the future.
The landmark judgment was given in a case brought by a law professor, Justice Abdullahi, who was contesting the Deputy Speaker's decision to count himself as a forming quorum for a vote on the budget. The judgment was backed by the position of the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Osei Owusu, who defended his decisive vote in the approval of the 2022 budget, although he was presiding as Speaker. The court also struck down Order 1093 of the Standard Order of Parliament, describing it as unconstitutional. On November 30th last year, Mr. Osei Owusu presided over the overturning of an earlier vote of the House rejecting the government's 2022 budget. The minority leader Haruna Idrisu called the judgment in the case a travesty of justice and a sign that the judiciary had failed the country's parliamentary democracy. But the first deputy speaker welcomed the judgment, describing it as refreshing. Mr. Owusu also said he would continue to interpret the Constitution and the standing orders of Parliament as he understands it.
The Member of Parliament for Ningo Prom in the Greater Accra region, Samuel Nati George, says the ruling by the Supreme Court on Wednesday allowing Deputy Speaker of Parliament to vote when they preside over proceedings could be problematic. While he disagrees with the decision of the Apex Court as it interferes with the authority and independence of Parliament, he says it also potentially opens a Pandora box.
They have given their ruling. We have heard. But I believe that there's a reason why our standing orders say that Parliament is the master of his own affairs, and that the procedure in Parliament resides in the bosom of Mr. Speaker. For me, I cannot for the life of me be part of what I would deem an illegality, which would be that the person presiding in the House would take part in a vote he's pretending over. And so I do not know what position my leadership will take or my party will take, but my principled position is one that states that anyone presiding, be it Mr. Speaker or any of his two deputies, has absolutely no business taking part in the vote on the floor of the House. And we will employ every legal means within the parliamentary procedure to ensure that this long time tested practice of Parliament, which is 30 years old this year, will be upheld. Until the Lord Justices decide to start expunging parts of the Constitution, like 1045, for us to see that the application of the law is not skewed and imbalanced. I do not see why anyone who has a conflict of interest should be allowed to vote. Because 1045 says you have a conflict, do not vote. Why did the Lord Justices go silent on the standing orders of Parliament that say that a chairman of a committee does not have a vote? A chairman of a committee in Parliament does not have an original vote. So why are they not saying that that is also a deprivation of his constituents? I mean, we pray the Lord Justices. Their role is to bring clarity, and not rather lead us into confusion and obfuscate what the facts are. The law is clear. We have heard them. They've passed their ruling. But Parliament, we are masters of our own procedure.
Ghanaians studying medicine in Ukraine whose education has been truncated due to disturbances in that country can now continue their studies in Grenada. Last Tuesday, the government secured an agreement with the Caribbean island states for 200 Ghanaian medical students who had to flee Ukraine to continue and complete their education at St. John's University of Medicine in Grenada.
The Registrar of the Scholarship Secretariat, Kingsley Ajimine, and the Director of Recruitment and Commercial Engagement of the university, David Anthony's, signed the agreement to this effect in the United Kingdom. Mr. Ajimine said the country was engaging other countries it had educational exchange agreements with to strike similar agreements. The move, he said, would ensure that the 200 medical students continued with their education seamlessly so that they would return to the country after their program to augment the number of medical doctors in Ghana. The agreement follows an earlier memorandum of understanding between Ghana and the university signed in 2019. Under the MOU, selected students with first degree in medical science will be offered scholarship for postgraduate training in the medical field. The scholarship packages range from 50% to 100% funding by the awarding institutions, with the Scholarship Secretariat as the coordinating agency. Mr. Ajimai noted that the Secretariat brokered the additional arrangement because the Ghana Medical School could not have placement for such continuing students.
In commemoration of World Glaucoma Week scheduled from 6 March to 12 March 2022, New TV is using this initiative to raise awareness and sensitize the public on glaucoma as a public health concern and leading cause of irreversible blindness worldwide. With the theme, "The World is Bright, Save Your Sight." There is more in today's update.
Glaucoma is the silent thief of sight. It gives no warning. Most people living with glaucoma are not aware of it. Anyone can become a victim. In its early stage, glaucoma patients may not notice any symptoms or even experience poor vision. Any vision lost when detected can never be restored. Those at risk of glaucoma are people over 40 years, people with a family history, those who suffer from diabetes and high blood pressure, people who have suffered an eye injury or trauma, the black race, and people who have been on long-term steroid use. Early detection of this silent thief earns you the great opportunity of stopping further deterioration and preserving your vision for the years to come. Glaucoma is only revealed through a comprehensive eye examination. Commit to an annual eye test. Diagnosis of glaucoma is not a death sentence. Be faithful to your treatment plan and save your sight from further deterioration. Blindness from glaucoma is irreversible but avoidable. Save your sight. Go see your eye care practitioner.
And on to some business stories. The Bank of Ghana has warned the public about an impending launch of a cryptocurrency named Freedom Coin in Ghana. According to a statement from the central bank, the cryptocurrency and its promoting company do not have any approval from the Bank of Ghana to operate in the banking and payment sector.
The bank reiterated that cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin are not regulated under any laws in Ghana and are therefore not backed by any guarantees or safeguards. It further directed, quote, all licensed institutions, including banks, specialized deposit-taking institutions, dedicated electronic money issuers, and payment service providers to refrain from facilitating cryptocurrency transactions via their platforms or agent outlets. The general public is hereby advised to take note and be guided accordingly, the statement added. The Bank of Ghana a few days ago cautioned the general public against the patronage of a money-doubling scheme operating in Ghana under the name BitCash Currency Exchange. According to the bank, the scheme, which falsely claims to have its approval, is a fraudulent one and does not reward investors as promised.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Dr. Ifua Asabia Asari, has invited businesses in the United Arab Emirates to invest in Ghana, saying that they would benefit from a favorable environment. In addition, she assured them of a politically stable country with a high level of skilled youth.
A number of memorandum of agreement were signed to create an attractive environment for the UAE and Ghanaian companies to encourage the exchange of trade missions and facilitate information exchange between the two parties. Dr. Asari said businesses were secure because of commitment to the rule of law and the advantage of the strategic location of Ghana, which made access to other markets in the world easy. She said GIPA had made it easy for businessmen to register their businesses by providing a one-stop hub for registration with other required institutions such as the Food and Drugs Authority and Ghana Standards Authority required.
The World Bank Country Director for Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone, Mr. Pierre Laporte, says Ghana stands to benefit from going to the International Monetary Fund if the country plans on going on an aggressive debt rescheduling program. Government has on multiple occasions shut down suggestions for the government to resort to the International Monetary Fund to revive Ghana's ailing economy.
The government, despite harsh criticism, has said that the most prudent measure in the face of Ghana's ailing economy is not to go back to the IMF, but rather rely on the e-levy, among others, to raise revenue domestically while cutting down on government expenditure. Some analysts have proposed seeking an IMF bailout as a better alternative amidst public disapproval of the e-levy, but the government says it will have none of that. Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund has stated that it is ready to support Ghana in any way deemed useful by the country's leaders amidst the economic challenges. It says Ghanaian authorities have not contacted it for any form of assistance yet.
Ghana's inflation rate has once again risen to hit 15.7% in February 2022. This represents a 1.8% jump in the inflation rate compared to the 13.9% recorded in the first month of this year. The current rate is the highest recorded since the rebasing of the CPI and inflation in August 2019.
This new rise in the inflation rate confirms prediction by economists and stakeholders that prices of fuel and food will continue to rise following tensions between Ukraine and Russia. Already, Ghanaians are bearing the effect of the tensions on the price of fuel, which in turn has led to an increase in transport fares. According to data from the Ghana Statistics Service, the 15.7% increase in February 2022 was mainly influenced by housing, water, electricity, gas, transport, as well as food and non-alcoholic beverages. Food inflation regained its dominance, recording 17.4% year-on-year inflation, as against the 13.7% recorded in the previous month, all above a national average of 15.7%. This month, food inflation is higher than both last month's food inflation and the average of the previous 12 months.
The Ministry of Food and Agriculture is to spend 17 million Ghana cedis to compensate poultry farmers affected by bird flu diseases beginning this week. The payments will range from 10 Ghana cedis per chick to 80 Ghana cedis per bag of feed. However, only farmers who have their certificates of destruction approved by the Veterinary Service Directorate qualify for the payment.
The Agric Ministry stated that, quote, to ensure all affected farmers from July 2021 to December 31st, 2021 receive some compensation for any losses incurred as a result of the outbreak, the ministry has agreed to pay 30 Ghana cedis for a matured bird, 20 Ghana cedis for a pullet, 10 Ghana cedis per chick, 80 Ghana cedis for a bag of feed, and 10 Ghana cedis for a crate of eggs, based on the amount available immediately. Affected poultry farmers between July and December 31st, 2021 should collect their certificates of destruction from the VSD and submit it to the Finance and Administration Unit of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture for commencement of payments. Meanwhile, the Director for Veterinary Services Directorate, Dr. Patrick Abaka, sounded a warning to importers of chicks. He threatened to close down farms without the right certification. Quote, any farmer who brings in day-old chicks to any part of this country without certification from the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Veterinary Services Directorate, and APD, we will destroy the birds without any compensation. We are looking at having a legislation in the future to back this act.
There is more news after this break. Welcome back, and on to some international news. The foreign ministers of Russia and Ukraine are to hold talks in Turkey as Moscow's all-out invasion of its neighbor enters its third week. Ukraine Dmytro Kuleba said ahead of the face-to-face meeting with his Russian counterpart.
This comes after Ukraine accused Russia of bombing a children's hospital, an attack Kyiv says is a war crime. Ukraine says 17 people were hurt in the attack in Mariupol on Wednesday. Footage has since emerged showing a building, which also housed a maternity ward, reduced to a shell with a huge crater nearby. The bombing has been widely condemned, with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres describing the attack as horrific, and the U.S. accusing Russia of a barbaric use of military force to go after innocent civilians. But the Russian deputy ambassador to the UN said the bombed hospital has been turned into a military object by Ukrainian radicals.
3 people, including a child, were killed in a Russian strike on a maternity and children's hospital in Ukraine. President Zelensky said people were trapped under the wreckage and called the attack a war crime. He also posted footage apparently from inside the hospital, which appeared badly damaged.
Some 17 people were also injured, including staff and patients, local officials said. The head of Donetsk Regional Administration, which includes the port city of Mariupol, said no deaths have been confirmed, and there were no confirmed injuries amongst children. He said the attacks happened during an agreed ceasefire with the Russian side according to Interfax Ukraine. The Mariupol City Council said the strikes had caused colossal damage and published footage showing burned-out buildings, destroyed cars, and huge crater outside the hospital. The BBC has verified the location of the videos. Mariupol has been surrounded by Russian forces for several days, and repeated attempts at a ceasefire to allow civilians to leave have broken down.
Purity Patel is expected to announce changes to the UK's refugee scheme for Ukrainians, which could include allowing those on temporary visas to bring family members over. The Home Secretary is expected to update Parliament later with changes aimed at streamlining the processes.
Ukraine's UK ambassador said refugees mustn't face bureaucratic hurdles. He acknowledged the need for security checks, but said most refugees did not pose a threat. He said paperwork issues could be dealt with later, as many, quote, fleeing under bombardment did not have access to the necessary documents. Labour has called for the government to lift normal visa conditions for Ukrainian refugees so the UK can take its fair share.
And into some sports stories, Chelsea's FC owner Roman Abramovich has been sanctioned by the UK government as part of its response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He is one of the 7 oligarchs to be hit with fresh sanctions, including asset freezes and travel bans.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson said there could be no safe havens for those who have supported the invasion. Chelsea FC has been seized from Mr. Abramovich as part of the freeze on his assets, and sales of the club is now on hold. The government says it will issue a special license that will allow fixtures to be fulfilled, staff to be paid, and existing ticket holders to attend matches. Season ticket holders can still attend games they have ticket for, but clubs cannot now sell any more tickets that haven't been sold already. The merchandise shop will be closed.
Sule Ali Muntari scored his first goal for Hearts of Oak from a spot kick to hand his side a deserved 2-1 win over Wafa in the Ghana Premier League in Accra. Muntari scored from the penalty spot in the 74th minute to give the Phobians the lead in the second half.
The former UEFA Champions League winner with Inter Milan had the chance to seal win for the Phobians when forward Patrick Razak was brought down by Wafa's goalie Osei Bunsu in the 74th minute. The 37-year-old stepped up and netted what proved to be the winner for the host, who are looking at getting into the top 4. Muntari has enjoyed his stay at Hearts since deciding to join the Ghanaian Giants ahead of the second round of the top flight. The former Black Stars player has 2 goals contribution since joining the reigning Ghanaian champions last month.
And on to entertainment, since the 1960s, much of the developed world's retail waste has been sent to Ghana. With the rise of fast fashion, the amount of second-hand clothing has become a scourge. In the center of Accra is the Kantamanto Market, one of the largest second-hand clothing markets in West Africa. 40% of the clothing traded in Kantamanto finds its way to a landfill every week. Those materials are recycled using batik to stylize the garment. There is more in this report from Kokrobite Institute.
The Kokrobite Institute has a mission to support development by facilitating projects and programs that demonstrate the intersection between art, culture, design, health, and sustainable development through literacy. Today, the Institute is a sprawling green campus designed by the late Ghanaian architect Alero Olympio. It is a place where innovative products and ideas are created to not only benefit those in the local community, but also the environment. Here is the founder and director of Kokrobite Institute, Renee C. Niblet.
Kokrobite, I like to think the Institute is a hub for creative ideas that imagine how we identify waste materials as potential, how we identify waste as materials for product development. We work with the local youth here and others, actually trying to build on some of the traditional craft skills that people still have, in the hopes that we are building skills that will allow young people to find gainful employment through resourceful design and creativity. So to that end, we have a glass recycling project. We use secondhand Obrudi Weru secondhand clothing for our fashion line. We have an educational committee. As I said, a focal point for us is, again, learning from traditional intelligence. And one thing we're interested in is education.
She has made an impact on thousands over the last 3 decades. The Institute has hosted study abroad students, entrepreneurs, and creatives who have attended learning programs, internships, residencies, and incubations. She also works with the residents of Kokrobite village, providing training and creating jobs.
I'm learning a lot of new things that I never knew before, and I'm also able to afford to sustain myself. Yeah, that Kokrobite Institute is a place to be. It's not so much about working for money, but your experience, experiencing a lot of things and learning some things that, let's say, you never knew. So Kokrobite Institute is a place to be.
When I came here first, it was still about the sewing. Yeah, it was about the sewing. And then later, I got to know how to do soap making, candle making, basic electronics. It has taught me how to engage myself in renovation a lot, because we normally deal with things that really don't have that much respect. Like example, with the fashion area, it's about the obroni wewu, but we do nice things for them.
And that's it for NEWSBOARD. Let's take a look again at our headlines. Security expert wants an established commission of inquiry to probe criminal gangs within police service. Former President John Mahama says judgment affirming Deputy Speaker's right to vote shocking but not surprising. Bank of Ghana warns public about an impending launch of a cryptocurrency named Freedom Coin. And 3 people, including a child, were killed in a Russian strike on a maternity and children's hospital in Ukraine. Thanks for watching. My name is Patricia Roxanne Hammond. We came to you live from our studios at Kwabenya Point 1. Good evening.